the icy and deep sea of Japan, a vast underwater cemetery and silent witness to countless naval dramas, has safeguarded for decades tales of heroism and irreparable losses. Among these cryptic aquatic enigmas, the fate of the Soviet submarine M49 had solidified into a grim legend, a wound that would not heal in the proud history of the Soviet Navy's Pacific Fleet. This submarine of the modest M class, acronym for Malutka, which means small, designed for coastal defense and affectionately nicknamed Baby by the crews, disappeared in the initial brutal maelstrom of the Great Patriotic War, sometime in uncertain 1941. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. Let's begin. His loss was not perceived simply as another military casualty in a conflict of epic scale. He became the painful and enduring symbol of the sacrifice of an entire generation of sailors and the perpetual enigma of an abrupt, undocumented, and unexplained end. For more than 8 long decades, the M49 persisted as a specter beneath the waves. A lost wreck whose precise whereabouts and the actual cause of its sinking fueled a fertile ground of speculation. Theories ranging from a catastrophic mechanical failure mid-submergence to a precise attack by the Japanese enemy, who firmly controlled much of the maritime region, the class Malutka. Although modest in size, with limited operational autonomy and reduced armament, it constituted the backbone of the Soviet submarine forces specifically dedicated to the defense of the vital coasts of the Far East. Designed for missions close to the coast, these submersibles stood out for their relative agility and rapid diving capability. However, its design imposed notoriously Spartan living conditions on its crew. The M49, with its 22 crew members on board, was essentially a narrow, pressurized steel capsule. He submerged one fateful day, never to resurface, leaving behind only a profound trail of grief for his family and a classified file with the laconic and desolate label of missing in action. The years rushed by on this mystery. The devastating world conflict ended, the Soviet Union disintegrated and dissolved, but the irresolvable enigma of the M49 remained, a knot of absolute silence in the annals of naval military history. The task of tracking and locating shipwrecks of this age and magnitude in the vast and turbulent waters of the Sea of Japan is an epic and monumental undertaking, comparable only to searching for a needle in a haystack submerged in the abyssal depths. It requires a combination of state-of-the-art sweeping technology, almost infinite patience, and often the crucial intervention of a stroke of luck. However, for the modern Russian Navy, the mission to recover the truth and honor its fallen in combat transcends mere marine archaeology. It stands as an unavoidable and solemn moral duty towards the memory of the nation. Perseverance, combined with a strategic investment in marine prospecting technology, finally paid off in a way that was both spectacular and conclusive. In April 2025, the Russian Navy, deploying sophisticated state-of-the-art side-scan sonar equipment and high-capacity visual penetration remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, managed to locate a massive object whose silhouette and dimensions unequivocally match the exact technical specifications of a submarine of the class Malutka. The precise location of the discovery, a particular section of the Sea of Japan sadly known for its difficult and abrupt seabed topography, characterized by canyons and seamounts as well as for its particularly unpredictable and violent ocean currents, provided the clear explanation for why the shipwreck had managed to elude searchers and scientific expeditions for so long. It was, literally, hidden in a geographically remote and difficult-to-access corner. Detailed visual confirmation, provided by the ROV's ultra-high-resolution cameras, eliminated any shadow of doubt that might have existed. The wreck was, without a doubt, the M49. The ship was in a remarkably intact state of preservation for its age and conditions, resting silently on the seabed at a considerable depth, preserved by the cold and lack of oxygen. The euphoria and intense initial emotion of the discovery quickly mingled with a somber and unwavering determination to unravel once and for all the mystery of their disappearance and finally offer emotional closure, a place of remembrance, and a tribute to the families of the 22 crew members fallen. Preliminary analysis of the detailed sonar images and acoustic data provided the first and most crucial clue about its tragic fate. The hull showed massive and significant damage to its structure, but the location of the destruction was unexpected. It was not located at the bow, where one would logically expect the devastating impact of a torpedo or a head-on collision with another vessel. Instead, the damage was dramatically concentrated in the upper forward third of the submarine. This specific damage pattern and explosive deformation of an external nature, and with a clearly upward trajectory, was the unmistakable forensic signature of a direct and violent impact against an object anchored in the water column, that is, a sea mine. The incredible and painful revelation was soon confirmed after a meticulous and exhaustive examination of the remains by a multidisciplinary team of naval experts, metallurgical engineers, and historians. The M49 did not succumb to enemy fire, the dominant hypothesis for decades. Its tragic and sudden end was due to a circumstance that, although historically regrettable and deeply ironic, is surprisingly common in the darker annals of naval warfare: the devastating and fatal friendly fire. The submarine fatally collided with a Soviet naval mine which had been anchored and sown by its own forces in the area. A defensive minefield. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. This discovery was immediately categorized as astonishing for multiple and significant historical reasons. First, he brought to light a historical truth that had remained jealously hidden and conveniently buried under the nebulous label of missing in action, a category that often concealed uncertainty or logistical errors. In 1941, at the height and confusion of hostilities, the navies of both sides were laying defensive mines at a frantic and often chaotic pace, operating under wartime conditions that prevented accurate mapping, detailed documentation, and effective communication of established minefields. A submarine like the M49, sailing on or near the surface, whether to recharge its vital electric batteries or due to malfunctions or night navigation problems, would have fatally encountered a minefield laid by its own nation, an unmarked death trap. The preliminary report issued by the expedition leaders detailed with forensic precision that the nature of the physical damage found on the M49 was perfectly consistent with the violent impact against an anchor mine. The force of the resulting explosion would have been immediate and of catastrophic magnitude, instantly flooding the vital forward compartments and disabling all crucial control and propulsion systems at once, which precipitated the submarine into an uncontrolled and irreversible descent to the bottom. The fact that the wreck was found structurally intact with no signs of implosion strongly suggests that the sinking was extremely rapid and that the submarine plummeted to the bottom without having enough time to even send a distress message or for the crew to even attempt the standard desperate survival measures. The final destination of the 22 crew members, the fate of the M49, whose lives remained suspended in the collective imagination and in the mourning of their families for 80 years of painful uncertainty, was finally revealed. Once the irrefutable cause of the sinking was established, historians, naval ballistics experts, and analysts were able to reconstruct the harrowing and probable final scenario. The crew, made up of young and brave sailors and officers who swore loyalty, faced a sudden and unexpected end, not at the hands of the enemy they were prepared to fight and expected to find, but by an invisible and fatal trap set by their own defensive infrastructure. The irony of this final fate is a testament to the ruthless and often absurd nature of war. The discovery of M49 in this expanded context is not simply a technical find or a trophy of marine archaeology. It is first and foremost a sacred war grave. The venerated international naval tradition demands that such wrecks be treated with the utmost respect as final resting places, and the Russian Navy has officially confirmed that the site will be permanently designated and protected as an underwater war cemetery, honoring and respecting the dignity of the fallen. However, the documentary, historical and cartographic value of the precise location and analysis of the cause of the loss is, for naval records, incalculable. The specialized divers and ROVs managed to capture poignant images of scattered personal belongings and equipment remains on board that, although frozen in time and covered by thick marine incrustation, paint a grim and deeply human portrait of the last desperate hours of life on board before the impact. While intimate details about the crew members' physical remains have not been publicly revealed out of strict respect for the privacy and grief of the families, the simple and forceful revelation of the verified cause of their death is perceived as a fundamental act of historical justice, a narrative and emotional closure for all involved. The discovery of the M49, which occurred 70 years after the end of the war that claimed it, resonates deeply and emotionally in the Russian sensibility and collective memory. The sea not only preserved the submarine's steel hull, but also, and more importantly, preserved the historical truth. The story of the M49 is a powerful, solemn, and tragic reminder of the inherent and multifaceted dangers of naval warfare, a scenario where the sea itself, logistical equipment failures, and even the defensive and logistical infrastructure itself can be as lethal and devastating as the military adversary in the distance. This crucial discovery of April 2025 has become a key piece, essential to closing a painful chapter of uncertainty and speculation in the official history of the Pacific Fleet. Detailed information on the precise location and verified cause of the sinking will be permanently incorporated into historical and naval records, correcting decades of conjecture and gaps. The Russian Navy has announced plans to hold a solemn commemorative ceremony on site, at the exact location of the discovery, with the presence of relatives of the fallen crew members. If possible, to pay a final and definitive tribute to the sailors who fell victim to a tragic and confusing fate in times of war. The M49 submarine has ceased to be a mere mystery. It has been transformed into a living, tangible and profound lesson of history. The incredible discovery in the depths of the Sea of Japan, the wreck that silently revealed its impact against a naval mine planted by its own nation, has transmuted an 80-year-old legend into a moving and firmly established truth. This discovery allows the souls of its 22 crew members to finally find eternal rest, knowing that their sacrifice has been fully recognized and the truth of their fate revealed without ambiguity. The immediate future of the expedition involves an even more detailed, technical and forensic analysis of all the data collected to extract any other valuable lessons, whether engineering, historical or procedural, that the M49 may offer from its watery grave. But the greatest legacy, the deepest inheritance of this incredible discovery, is the powerful confirmation that no life and no crucial historical truth is truly lost forever, but only patiently waiting to be found and acknowledged. Leave a like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.